What makes something great? Are legends defined with price tags associated on them? What makes a franchise memorable? I want to backtrack a bit so we could understand the roots of Pokemon, that way we could genuinely understand what made it unique in the first place. Part 1. The Roots. The concept of Pokemon was created by Satoshi Tajiri, inspired by his childhood fascination with catching insects. The first game, Pocket Monsters Red and Green, developed by Game Freak and published by Nintendo in February 1996 for the Game Boy, was a simple yet effective showcase of how the passion project came to be. Game Freak managed to inspire players to catch and trade their Pocket Monsters with their friends using a link cable, a feature that was revolutionary. No other franchise had done anything like it at the time. It encouraged interactivity with your friends. After Pokemon Red and Green's successful reception, Game Freak dropped Pokemon Yellow version for the Game Boy in 1998. The plot is pretty simple. You defeat the gym leaders and stop Team Rocket from stealing Pokemon, just like in Red and Green. Now, I wouldn't know anything about it since I wasn't even born yet, but what I do know is Pokemon Red, Yellow, and Green were what sparked the franchise into what it is today. Part 2. The Hype. Fast forward November 21st, 2004, the Nintendo DS released in North America. It was a technological spectacle in its own right. A dual-screen clamshell design, enhanced graphical capabilities at the time, and the best feature of all, PictoChat. Pokemon wanted a game on this handheld device, so they conceived Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. It was an alright game that had its focus shift from simplicity to a much more story-driven focus. The catching mechanic obviously was what drew players in, but a new generation of kids were playing their games. I remember when I got my hands on it along with Sonic Rush and Zelda Phantom Hourglass back in 2007. I had to beg my mom to get it, of course, but I personally remember being at school trading cards and seeing what teams my friends would like to run in Diamond. It was a very special time for me in my life. Almost a year later, Pokemon Platinum came out, and I remember the first time I saw Giratina in the intro cutscene. It actually scared me as a kid. Looking back on it, they made the plot sharper, they made the villain more compelling than in Diamond and Pearl, and they had some quality of life changes like better fire types and giving the Pokédex multiple buttons in case you accidentally skipped over one of the settings on it. I remember the hype was still going for this game. It truly felt like Sinnoh reimagined. And don't even get me started on the Distortion world. My god, the Distortion world has to be one of, if not the best thing Pokemon has ever added to the franchise. There was something so alluring after a long day of school or work, catching your favorite Pokemon. Lucario, Bibarel, Staraptor, Luxray, even Gastrodon, and battling your homies on the playground. I would literally pretend I was sleeping, and when I would hear my mom open my door, I would hide my DS under the pillow and act like I was sleeping. Then when I would hear her close the door again, I would go right back to playing, and I knew my friends were doing the same. Part 3. The Peak of Pokemon. If you ask me what my favorite generation of Pokemon is now, I would have to say it's Gen 5. Pokemon Black and White 2 to be more specific. I liked how Game Freak tried to do something more innovative with their storytelling and fan service. They weren't overboard with the fan service like they are today, and I respected the controversial evil team. The game design was interesting and the Pokemon they had to offer was expansive. It's a real shame that they didn't sell well, but I think it's because they released it too late into the Nintendo DS's life cycle. I mean, the 3DS had already been out for like a year, and they were working on X and Y, but that further demonstrated that they still wanted to give players as much to do as possible, even though they were working on Gen 6 at the time. They still made Pokemon Black and White 2 full of content, especially in the post-game. It just showed that they cared about the details, which makes a game go from good to great in my opinion. This was the era where Game Freak put time and effort into their games. I could go on and on about why Pokemon Black and White 2 are so goated, but I'll save that for another video. I don't want to glaze them too hard. Pokemon X and Y were still very good games, but they fall a little flat in terms of storytelling and difficulty. They tried to follow the beat of the predecessor, but they came up short. The new mechanics like Horde encounters in Mega Evolution were interesting though, and it was still clear that they did in fact try to tell a compelling story. Mega Evolution was really impactful, and it definitely made you feel like you were a champion among trainers. It was this innovative idea that had potential even though some Pokemon didn't need one. I'm looking at you, Garchomp. But the lore behind it and the exposition where they explain how it came to be was pretty cool. I also like how Gen 1 went from a criminal syndicate to Gen 4 and 5 where they want to destroy the Earth. It escalated quickly. I know Heart Gold and Soul Silver were also games where Game Freak put in effort, but I'll be honest, I never played them, so I personally don't think I'd be the right person to discuss them. If y'all want to see a retrospective on them, I might make a video highlighting them, but I do recommend y'all check out Giram Red. He's made reviews on pretty much every single Pokemon game to this day, and he was the one who inspired me to make my channel. My point is, Generations 5 and 6 were when Game Freak put time and effort into their games, and I really wish we could go back to that era. Part 4. How everything fell apart. I'm actually gonna skip the other 3DS games like Sun and Moon because, again, I've never played them. Yeah, I can already see y'all in the comments. Bob King, you're not certified to make this video if you haven't played all of the... And to that I say, I don't give a fuck. It's my video. Anyway, the era where Pokemon truly fell apart in my opinion has gotta be Sword and Shield. Again, I feel like I gotta preface this by saying that I never played Sword and Shield, but I know about its flaws. So first of all, Game Freak didn't include the national dex, so you couldn't use some Pokemon. The reason they claimed to do this was because they wanted to focus on animations and graphical aspects, but when you look at the game, it looks no better than Ocarina of Time on the N64. They tried to incorporate an app called Pokemon Home to the Switch so you could transport Pokemon from each generation, but with the limited dex, some Pokemon couldn't be added, and Pokemon Home had some of, if not the worst menu design of all time. Plus they charged you an annual subscription to use it. It was pretty much ransomware that you paid for. They held your Pokemon hostage for an annual fee, but they didn't allow you to transfer all of your favorite Pokemon. That in conjunction with the price of the game, which was $80 by the way, and that didn't include DLC, you could see that Game Freak was just capitalizing on the player financially, since they know no matter what they make and of whatever quality, people will buy it because it's fucking Pokemon. If you look at the Galar region, you can clearly see that the map design was uninspired and rushed. All it is straight paths heading north with no labyrinths or twists and turns. The whole reason why Pokemon was interesting from a gameplay standpoint was the majority of the gameplay, which was running from city to city exploring the routes. You might find an item or a cleverly placed NPC to fight you, which would reward you with an item after battling them, but here you get none of that. It's just samey, generic, and quite frankly lazy. Most moves that Game Freak used to make were carefully planned and constructed meticulously, and while they didn't always work, you could clearly see that they tried. Take the Kalos region for example. The tall and imposing tower in Lumiose doubles as the 5th gym and the routes branch out omnidirectionally. Or in Gen 5 where they flipped the structure by having the starting point be on the west side in the sequel. It's almost like Gen 5, which they put the most effort into, made less of a profit, and that's why they're so lazy and uninspired today. It's pretty sad actually if you really think about it. The remakes used to be innovative, or they expanded on what was already there. Take Omega Ruby for example. Game Freak kept the story the same, but they added elements from Gen 6. They gave us new features and they added a really awesome story in the post-game with the Delta episode. You could clearly see the passion and care that was put into their game. In Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, however, not so much. It's a Control-C, Control-V experience. If you want to go back and play Gen 4, just play Platinum. The legendary Pokemon used to feel rare and treacherous. You may have to traverse into a cavern or complete complex puzzles to locate them, but in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, all you do is grind for them for hours in the underground, then go to Ramanas Park and spawn them in on some sort of pedestal. What the hell is this shit? I'm not expecting Zelda Ocarina of Time level of puzzles, but I want something. Also, why did they remake Diamond and Pearl instead of Platinum? Platinum was the definitive edition for Sinnoh that fixed all of Diamond and Pearl's problems, so I don't get it. Also, the chibi art style sucks. Could you imagine if we got a third-person view where we could move the camera like Breath of the Wild, where we were much taller and we could have seen Mount Coronet in the backdrop everywhere we went, instead of the exact same game, just high-scaled graphically? Part 5. Breath of the Wild Copycat. Speaking of Breath of the Wild, we gotta address the elephant in the room. No, not you, Varuda. I'm talking about Legends Arceus. I'll be completely honest with y'all. I couldn't finish Legends because I got so bored. I'm about to sound really cynical, but Pokemon Legends Arceus really genuinely pisses me off. I don't know what Game Freak was doing at the time, but I'm gonna call this their Sinnoh fuck-up era, cause for some reason they loved to pander to nostalgia or just fuck up Gen 4 around this time, and they couldn't get enough of it. I know Ilka made Brilliant Diamond, but I'm pretty sure the decision to make the remakes was still Game Freak's call. So first of all, there's little to no plot. Allow me to explain. There's not really any force or, opposition to deal with. And that's storytelling 101, is that you need to have some sort of organization or enemy team. I know it's Pokemon and you're not supposed to be playing it for the plot, but anytime I'm playing Legends, I don't ever know half the time if I'm making any progress after I calm down these glowing highlighters. There's barely any threat. It's just these Magnum Gold condom wrapper looking giant Pokemon that aren't even doing anything to anyone, so I don't even know why we have to stop them. It doesn't help the fact that you can defeat them without even using your Pokemon anyway, which defeats the purpose of the entire fucking game. We don't actually see them hurting anybody, so it just feels pointless, like there aren't any real stakes. They really gave us a Disney level plot twist villain who doesn't even work because he doesn't have a reason to be evil. The maps are just desolate, barren areas with no real reason to explore them. Unless you like running around aimlessly catching Pokemon, be my fucking guest, but the mechanic is lame. The alphas had potential to be fun until you realize that the items to create Pokeballs and smoke bombs and the like have an RNG based system when it comes to finding their raw materials, and then you gotta go far as fuck into the map and you have no more storage space, which happens a lot, by the way. You gotta fast travel back to one of the camps, then run all the way back to where the fuck you just were. Fuck this game. It sucks and I fucking hate it. They created artificial drama with the 2 clan settlements, but I spammed the A button like everybody does when they play Pokemon, so I had no idea what the impetus of their beef even was. The game is called Legends Arceus, but he's hardly even in the fucking game. Jubilife Village has little to no life at all. All the NPCs barely even move. If you played Breath of the Wild, the NPCs will interact around Link. They have personality. They even run for shelter when it starts raining. But in Legends Arceus, the only movement we see is this lady sweeping the ground for some reason. You can't even enter the buildings in the city. You can only go into your room or the main building where you get your Explorer rank or whatever the fuck it's called. In some cutscenes, they will fade to black because it's too difficult to animate a person walking apparently. The music is good, but that's not saying much since the music is fire in all of the games. Hey editor, add in the lake theme from Platinum. Oh yeah, I'm the editor. There are no puzzles or quests to complete. The only quest is the same one that I mentioned earlier with the glowing gold Pokemon that aren't even a threat. There are no challenges like trainers or anything to fight, which makes the game a drag to play through. Well, there are, but they're few and far between. The graphics and frame rate will dip for some reason, even though the games that came out roughly at the same time, like Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and Bayonetta 3, look better. Mario Odyssey even looks better. How does that even happen? It's so disappointing because at the time I loved Breath of the Wild. I was welcome to a fresh Pokemon game with inspiration from it, but soon as I saw the release trailer, my hopes went down drastically. The colors and art direction was lazy and the game felt rushed and unpolished. The characters, if you want to call them that, were lackluster and boring. There's little to no incentive to play the game, and it was just a cash grab to pander to Zelda fans so they could make more money. Do not play this game. Part 6. The Child Brain Rot Era. Scarlet and Violet, what to say? Well, the game suffers from the same problem as Legends Arceus with the barren, empty wasteland with little to nothing to do. You know, sometimes less is more. Also, the gym leaders, they're like not arranged, so if you try to go to them, you could be underleveled or not, but the game doesn't really give you a guideline or anything. It's really ridiculous how they did that. I don't know what they were on, but you know. The best part to the entire map, in my opinion, was Area 0, but I'm not talking about the one from Dying Light. The plot somehow downgraded because there's no villain, instead just some elementary school bullies. What? See, this is where Pokemon lost me as a franchise. They start their child brain rot era with this game. If you don't know what I'm on about, let me elaborate. So it seems Game Freak is treating us like children. They'll put out something that looks cool on paper, but beneath the surface it's all just lies and deceit. I mean, remember what I said about Pokemon Home with Sword and Shield? They lied about spending more time on budget and animations and graphical capabilities so that they could use that as an excuse for their laziness. When you deal with children, you often do the same thing. You lie to them to manipulate them. You make them not read too much into things. Scarlet and Violet did the exact same thing with the trailer. It looked all colorful and pretty on paper, but when it launched, it was a glitchy mess that was borderline unplayable. And they knew what they were doing. They knew people would buy it because, like I said earlier, it's fucking Pokemon. They could get away with it. Part 7. The future of the brain rot. So as of today, July 22nd, 2025, and the time that I'm editing this, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning the next day, Pokemon has made their Pokemon Direct, or whatever it's called. And in it, the trailer does not look good. I'll be honest. They still have poor backgrounds and assets, like the one shown here. There's fan service with returning characters like Mabel and roaming Pokemon that can Mega Evolve for some reason. I thought the whole story behind Mega Evolution was that only a select few trainers could achieve it. It used to be this powerhouse that was hyped up by all of the characters. Even Professor Sycamore never achieved it. When you make it so that just anybody can have it just by catching a random Pokemon off of the street, it loses the one thing that made it spectacular. They made it seem like the nighttime mechanic would be a big deal, but that already happened in Legends Arceus when the ghost type Pokemon would spawn in. The game isn't out yet, but there appear to be too many arbitrary plot points going on at the same time. Like, the Italian mob somehow ingratiated their way into town. There's a ranking system from Z to A, so 26 ranks that you have to climb, which doesn't make any sense. They somehow shoehorned in alpha Pokemon into the city for some reason. You can jump from building to building like Spider-Man. There's just way too much going on for me, and it doesn't feel like Pokemon anymore. And that's why I was talking about it being brain rot. You could be in my comments like, well, Bob King, you're talking about brain rot, but all you do is play Grand Theft Auto 5 and Five Nights at Freddy's on your channel. And while you're right about that, this isn't about me. This is about Pokemon, goddammit. It also doesn't help the fact that the UI that they showed us does not look good either. The cherry on top, or the wings on top I suppose, is this new Mega. Take a look at how goofy they made Dragonite look. He also doesn't need a Mega since he can learn Dragon Dance, so, you know, I'm getting Mega Garchomp vibes already, which isn't good in my opinion. You could argue, well, Bob King, his speed stat would get higher. But like I said, Dragonite learns Dragon Dance anyway, so it just feels unnecessary. Here are a few better designs that I think make Dragonite really pop. Take a look at these. instead of what we got. You know, what they gave us, he just looks like, I don't know, like Silly Putty with the tail or something. But these designs right here are way better. Also, I like the fact that they tried to justify making his design like that by saying it pays homage to Dragonair's design, but that just means that he evolved backwards. You know, kind of like the PewDiePie meme where he's like, it's just evolving,
just
but
backwards.
backwards. Part 8. How did this happen? Well, like I said, I think the reason Pokemon lost its charm was because Gen 5 was the peak. Game Freak noticed that it flopped compared to their other games, so they pulled the plug on their creativity and careful execution. Or you could say execution. See what I did there? Nigga, that shit was corny. Okay, I'll stop. But seriously, it's sad to see that they adopted this lazy, uninspired mindset. Now they market towards nostalgia and fan service, which is a step backwards. Remember the meme? It's evolving, just backwards. Well, that's exactly what we're seeing. I truly hope Pokemon will learn and adapt for the better, but given all the money that they're making, they're probably not going to, let's be real. They've already proven that they can make 3D games, gems, even if they're lacking in graphical capabilities or underdeveloped stories, like with ORAS. I want to revisit the question from earlier about what makes a game, or anything for that matter, great. The answer is ambiguous and subjective, but I personally believe what makes something great is how much thinking goes into whatever it may be. They say that the mind is the most powerful weapon after all, and certain writing decisions in generations 4 through 6 did appear to line up to an extent at least. I'm not saying these games were perfect, but they were most definitely when Game Freak demonstrated the most care and passion in their games, especially in Black 2 and White 2. They still had fan service, but they knew when to dial it down, and it was mainly only in the post-game like the PWT and Drift Veil. So originally I was gonna end the video right there, but you could consider this to be like part 9 or like a bonus part, right? But the last game I want to talk about is actually not from Game Freak, it was from Chunsoft. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky might go down as the best written spin-off Pokemon game of all time. The reason the story is so powerful is because of its flow. The plot, funnily enough, is similar to Pokemon Legends Arceus. You are a human with your partner Grovyle investigating temporal anomalies until you are washed ashore on a beach in an accident. You lost your memories and you are transformed into a Pokemon. You meet this other Pokemon who's in possession of a special relic fragment, which will come into play later. They want to become an explorer by joining Wigglytuff's guild, but they're too nervous to try. After helping them overcome their nervousness, y'all team up and join the guild in hopes that you'll regain your memories. Grovyle is continuing his journey without you by stealing time gears from forbidden lands. The time gears, if removed from said places, cause time to stop in those areas, so Wigglytuff declares Grovyle to be a criminal, and since you're a Pokemon and you lost your memory, y'all don't recognize each other. A new Pokemon, Dusknoir, shows up to arrest Grovyle, but the truth is Dusknoir is actually working for Dialga, who has gone haywire because his time gears went missing at the top of his tower. So Dusknoir catches you and your partner Pokemon off guard while arresting Grovyle, because Dialga ordered him to. So he teleports the three of y'all to the future where time was corrupted around the world. It actually turns out that the Dialga who Dusknoir was working for was Darkrai in disguise. He was the one who stole the time gears and placed them in hard to reach locations. He was the one who erased your memory and washed you ashore. He was also the one who convinced Dusknoir to attack you and your partner Pokemon. He wanted to prevent you from stopping him. The future world that you, your partner Pokemon, and Grovyle were trapped in was happening because the time gears were missing at the peak of Temporal Tower. So the three of you escape and find Celebi, who has a crush on Grovyle, and she sends y'all back to the present to restore time. After Dialga is defeated and the time gears are returned, you cease to exist because the timeline at the beginning of the game before you lost your memories isn't happening anymore. You get resurrected by a higher being, most likely Arceus, but you remain a Pokemon. Eventually you catch up with your partner Pokemon again, but y'all both don't know anything about Darkrai since he never revealed himself yet, which means the Dialga that you faced at the top of Temporal Tower was the real Dialga. Darkrai returns later in the post-game, but he gets foiled by you, your partner Pokemon, and Palkia. The story is full of twists and turns, and I recommend y'all check it out if y'all never played it. There's even more to it, but I don't have the time to talk about it right now. But anyway, like I said, Game Freak has definitely established that they have the potential to write compelling stories like that, and it's a shame the direction that they're going right now. Part 10. The outro? Nah, I'm just messing with you. It's just, I'm gonna close the video out. I hope you liked the video and I appreciate you making it this far. As always, it doesn't hurt to like and subscribe as it's free and you can always change your mind about it. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.